and it would not leave the city except by force. So Napoleon hunted it down in the First World War, and then perhaps the craziest adventure is actually in the Second World War, where this was the #1 work sought after by both Hermann Göring and Hitler. Hitler wanted it as the centerpiece of his planned super museum in his boyhood town of Linz, Austria, which he planned to convert the entire city into a museum containing every masterpiece in the world. And in fact, the altarpiece was stolen from a castle in the south of France where it had been sent for hiding. And it was brought to a secret underground salt mine that had been converted to a high-tech art storage facility right out of a James Bond movie that contained the 7,000 most important works of art stolen from Nazi Europe, including Leonardo's Lady with an Ermine, the Mona Lisa, the Ghent altarpiece, Michelangelo's Bruges Madonna, a who's who of the artworks of Europe. And they were eventually saved from destruction at the hands of the local SS officer who was in charge of the mine, who determined to destroy all of the works of art against direct orders from Hitler, who wanted the mine to be sealed, but the works not to be destroyed if they couldn't be defended. He was determined to blow up everything if the Allies were going to recapture them. And it was through the extraordinary heroism of some Austrian miners working in the resistance, some good fortune on the part of 2 Allied monuments officers, who were acting as detectives during the war to try to track down these stolen masterpieces, and an Austrian double agent who led a commando mission to try to delay the destruction of the mine. And eventually, it's not too much of a punchline here because you know that it survived, but there is a slight coda, and I'd like to end with that. One of the thefts, perhaps the strangest, took place in 1934, and was the theft of just one of the panels, a panel called The Righteous Judges, from the bottom left of the altarpiece when it's open. And it was stolen. Police had no idea, no leads to go on. And then several months after the theft, at a suburb of Ghent, there was a political rally for a Catholic political group, and one of the speakers collapsed of a heart attack. He was brought to his in-laws' house, and he summoned his lawyer, and he whispered to his lawyer, "I'm the last person on earth who knows where the judge's panel is." And then he died with perfect cinematic timing. And the resulting investigation was a complete fiasco that smacked of conspiracy to many, because there was no clear motivation as to why this one panel would go missing. But the best of the conspiracy theories, in my opinion, is one that is entirely plausible if you know about Hitler's concept of mysticism. Hitler, like a lot of the Nazi elite, genuinely believed in the supernatural and the occult, and you may know that the Nazi Party was actually founded and begun as an occult fraternity that would gather together to study occult texts, magic, and the supernatural. And Hitler established a supernatural research center called the Akhneneb that had missions going around the world to look for the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. This is where the Indiana Jones films got their idea. They had a mission to Tibet to try to capture a Yeti, the abominable snowman, to use for military purposes. One theory posits that Hitler thought that the Ghent altarpiece contained a coded treasure map to the Arma Christi, which is the term for the implements used in Christ's Passion, that Hitler thought would give supernatural powers to those who possessed it. And that one key component of this coded treasure map was hidden in the judge's panel. And the panel was stolen so that if Hitler was able to steal the Ghent altarpiece, he wouldn't have the complete map. And Joseph Goebbels actually sent a Nazi art detective called Heinrich Köhn to Ghent just before the Second World War to look for the judge's panel, and he couldn't find it. And then the Ghent altarpiece was stolen by the ERR, which is the Nazi art theft unit. So there's this enduring mystery about where this Righteous Judge's panel is now, because it's officially listed as lost. Some people think that in fact it is still with the Ghent altarpiece and that it is intact. The reason for this is in 1945, a conservator called Jeff van der Wecken painted an exact duplicate of the judge's panel to be installed in place of the missing panel, and it was set in place in 1950. On the back of that panel, he put a very odd rhyming couplet in Flemish that said, "I did it for love and for vengeance and for my dark side." He would never explain what this meant. Fast forward to 1974, every year a conservator cleans the Ghent altarpiece. And all of a sudden he shows up in 1974 and he does a double take because he thinks that the judge's panel, ostensibly painted in 1945, has just aged by 400 years and looks like the stolen original. and he informs the bishopric. They run a series of scientific tests. They say, unfortunately, this is the replacement panel. Sorry about that. It would have been great if it had been recovered. But they refuse to publish any of the scientific data related to their tests. And some people think that the bishopric was involved in the 1934 theft, and there's a rather complicated rationale why, which I go over in the book, that Van der Vecken was involved after the fact, and that he was asked to paint over the stolen panel with a thin layer that he then used to replace the panel to the original altarpiece with a thin layer of paint on top, and that after 30 years, that layer had faded due to light shining on it, and what was revealed beneath was the original painting. Right now, the Getty Conservation Institute is cleaning the Ghent altarpiece and doing a complete restoration. And hopefully in the next few months, they'll publish their findings, and we'll learn whether the Righteous Judges panel is still missing, or whether it might, in fact, be intact after all. So I'd like to stop there and thank you all for coming. I'm happy to answer questions later on, sign some books, and Atticus is very kind. They've given us wine and food, so please enjoy. And thank you again for coming to support me.
And I think we'll have him back again for the third book. Right?
Thanks very much.
But how do you top that?